Everyone, and welcome. Have you ever seen a news report that says something like, a new poll shows 60% of the country thinks X, and you've thought to yourself, wait a minute, they didn't ask me. How can they possibly know what millions of people think by talking to just 1,000? Well, it's not magic, it's a powerful idea called sampling. And once you get how it works, you'll never look at a news headline the same way again.
So here's the million-dollar question, right? If you're a company launching a new phone or a political campaign trying to win an election, you can't possibly ask every single person what they think. I mean, it would cost a fortune and take forever. So how do they get their answers?
The answer is this brilliant technique called sampling. It's the core idea that by carefully, and I mean carefully, selecting a small representative group, you can make a surprisingly accurate guess about what the entire population is thinking. It's more than just a shortcut. When it's done right, it's an incredibly smart way to understand the world around us. Okay, but here's the thing. Not all shortcuts are created equal. When it comes to sampling, researchers basically come to a fork in the road. They have to choose between two fundamentally different paths to get to their answer.
And those two paths are called probability sampling and non-probability sampling. The huge difference, the thing that changes everything, all boils down to one simple concept. One method is based on pure random chance, where everybody gets a fair shot. The other, well, that's based on the researcher's choice, what's convenient, or who they think is right for the study. Let's break down what that really means.
So first up, let's talk about probability sampling. You can think of this one as the scientific gold standard. The whole principle here is fair play. Every single person in the group you're studying has a known and often equal chance of being picked. This is how we get those rock-solid results that we can confidently say apply to the whole group.
Now, within this fair play world, researchers have four main tools in their toolbox, each one designed for a slightly different job. We're going to look at simple random, cluster, systematic, and stratified sampling.
This is sampling in its absolute purest form. It's literally like the old drawing names from a hat trick. If an HR department has 500 employees and needs to pick 50 for a special event, this method means employee number 1 has the exact same chance of getting picked as employee number 500. No favoritism, no bias, just pure, simple chance.
Okay, but what if your population is just massive, like the entire country? That's where cluster sampling is a lifesaver. You start by dividing the population into groups, or clusters, which are often geographical. Think cities or states. Then you randomly select a few of those entire clusters to survey. It makes these huge studies way more manageable.
Systematic sampling is pretty cool because it brings a kind of rhythm to the whole process. You start with the list of everyone, you randomly pick a starting point, and then you just select every, say, 10th person on the list. It's a really straightforward and efficient way to keep things random.
Let's make that real for a second. Imagine you have 5,000 people and you need a sample of 500. Well, simple math, right? You need 1 in every 10 people. So you'd randomly pick a starting number between 1 and 10, let's say it's 7, and then you'd pick person 7, person 17, person 27, and so on, all the way through your list. It's random, but it's also perfectly systematic. And finally, we have stratified random sampling. Think of this as the precision tool. You use this when you absolutely positively have to make sure that certain important subgroups are represented in your sample. You divide the population into these strata, maybe by income or age or gender, and then you do a random sample inside each one of those groups. It guarantees your final sample is a true reflection of the population's diversity.
All right, let's switch gears and walk down that other path. What if you don't have the time, the money, or the resources for that super rigorous random process? Well, that brings us to non-probability sampling. This is the fast and focused route where people are chosen based on convenience or judgment, not by random chance.
The most common type you'll see here is convenience sampling. And honestly, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's all about what's easy. It's incredibly fast and cheap. But, and this is a big but, it comes with a huge catch. The sample is almost never representative of the larger population.
Just think about it. If you stand in a mall on a Tuesday afternoon and survey shoppers, who are you talking to? You're talking to people who are free to be at a mall on a Tuesday afternoon. You're completely missing out on everyone who's at work or at school. It's convenient, for sure, but it's not the whole picture.
Next, we've got judgmental sampling. In this case, the researcher acts like a gatekeeper. They use their own expertise and judgment to handpick people who they think are a perfect fit for the study. So if you're studying what it takes to get a master's degree, you're not going to ask random people. You're going to specifically find people who are actually interested in getting one. It's very targeted.
Then there's snowball sampling, which is as cool as it sounds.
This is the go-to method when you're trying to reach groups that are really hard to find, like members of a niche hobby or an exclusive club. You find 1 or 2 people in that group, interview them, and then ask them, hey, who else should I talk to? Your sample size literally snowballs from there.
And finally, there's quota sampling. This one's a little tricky. It's basically a non-random attempt to build a sample that looks like the real population. A researcher might say, okay, the country's about 50% men and 50% women, so I need my sample to be the same. Then they'll go out and find people until they hit those numbers, or quotas. The proportions look right, but the way they found those people wasn't random at all.
So we have our 2 very different paths. We've got the rigorous, random, fair play approach, and we've got the fast, focused, choice-based approach. So how on earth does a researcher decide which way to go? Well, let's put them head to head.
It all boils down to your ultimate goal. If you need a definitive, unbiased answer that you can apply to everyone, like a major election poll, you absolutely have to use probability sampling. The results are meant to be conclusive. But if you're just in the early stages, maybe exploring a new idea and trying to generate a hypothesis, then the speed and low cost of non-probability sampling might be exactly what you need. The trade-offs are crystal clear. One is unbiased and tests ideas, the other is biased and creates.
So, researchers don't just flip a coin. They follow a pretty logical 4-step process. First, they figure out their main goal. Is it all about accuracy, or are cost and speed more important? Second, they look at all the possible techniques that could work. Third, they see which of those methods can actually achieve their goal. And finally, they pick the one that's the absolute best fit for the job.
Okay, I know. That was a pretty deep dive into statistics. So why should you and your everyday life actually care about any of this? Well, it's because you are literally surrounded by the results of sampling every single day.
So here's the bottom line, the one thing you need to remember. When you see a big, important poll claiming to know what the whole country thinks, it has to be based on probability sampling. If it's not, you should be very, very skeptical. The method they use is everything. It's the difference between a real snapshot of public opinion and a marketing campaign that only surveys its biggest fans to make a product look popular. It determines whether you're seeing a real insight or just cleverly packaged noise.
So, from now on, when you see that headline that says 80% of people believe X, I hope you'll feel empowered to ask the most important question. Not just who did they ask, but wait a minute, how did they choose who to ask? Because now you know the difference. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.